I know. I got all dolled up. I was like, all right. So we are good to go. I'd like to welcome everybody to our first budget deliberation, or actually budget presentation of the 26th cycle. The time is 7:04. Everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So I just want to introduce our board before we get started here. To my left, your right, is Quinn, and we have Bev. And to my right is Betty Ann, Kristen, Mary, and then down on our alternates table we have Robin, Alice, and Tracy, and I'm Richard Demko. Okay, with that, we're going to move to item number 3, which is our first public comment of the evening. Just some housekeeping before we get started regarding public comment. Public comment will be 2 minutes in length. Please state your name and address for the record. When you are speaking and giving your comment, please direct your comments to the board and not members of the audience. We're going to keep this very civil. And as customary, we do not respond to public comment. However, rest assured that your comments will be taken into consideration while we craft this budget. So with that, I would like to open up the floor for our first public comment. First public comment going twice. First public comment going 3 times. First public comment is closed. So tonight we will be hearing from the police department and the fire marshal. We originally had communications and emergency management and the fire department. Unfortunately, they had to reschedule. So tonight we'll start with the police department and then move into the fire marshal. Chief Bugrati, the floor is yours.
Hey. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to present my budget. You'll see that this budget, there's really no new asks here. The numbers are up because I put, and I'll explain when I get to each line, why they go up. Particularly overtime and our machinery and equipment for cars. Those 2 lines have usually in the past taken a big hit, and they've been cut, and we continuously run over. My goal this year, putting in the budget, is trying not to appear before you in July of the following year asking for a transfer. So that's really why I put those in. So I'll start right off with line 101, which is the chief's salary. Our proposal is a 2.49% increase, which is in line with the union increase. If you don't know, the union contract has been extended for 2 years. The town gave out a 2.49% increase. Our increase usually mirrors that. Same thing for the deputy chief line 102. That's a 2.49% increase. Going to SROs. So last year, the reason you're seeing such a big increase on that is we transferred some money out of the 110 line because we intend on filling the SRO position this year. Last year, we did not have anybody to fill the SRO position, so we put in for 1 officer. That's why it was 89 and change or whatever it was. This year, we hope to have an SRO. We do have some interest in an SRO position. We have a couple people signed up, so we're hoping to fill that again this year. That's why you see such a big increase in that line. It's really we just moved an officer's salary, a grade A officer salary, from the 110 line to that line. So that accounts for that increase. The clerks, again, 2.49% increase, just being consistent across the board. Our uniform police, that goes to a 2.25% increase. I can go, we're slated for 41 officers, 2 being in the SRO. Myself and the deputy chief are not included in that. We have our separate lines. So this accounts for 37 officers. We have 1 inspector, 3 lieutenants, 4 sergeants, 6 detectives, 14 grade A patrolmen, 3 grade B patrolmen, and 6 probationary patrolmen for next year. Right now, I don't, if you're not aware, we have been, we were stuck with a staffing crisis from July on to now. We were down a total of 6 people due to retirements. We had to terminate somebody. So those are circumstances that were beyond our control. Right now, we have one recruit who's on FTO. We took a lateral officer also from Bridgeport, and we have 4 that are in the academy. So we're hoping to be fully staffed by September. So we still have interest, and we have 2 upcoming spots that we plan on filling as well. So that accounts for that line. And they also were entitled to a 2.49% increase. So it's actually, the change in percentage doesn't go up because I had accounted, we didn't know what we were going to do with the contract this year, so we had budgeted for a 3% increase, if you recall last year. They didn't get a 3% increase, so I had to go back, recalculate what they got off of a 2.49% increase. That's why it's only up 2.25%. Crossing guards. So this is one area where it went up a little bit. As you know, we have 4 crossing guards. We did add an extra one in the past year at the corner of Maple and Pearl. We were receiving a lot of complaints there due to the size of the intersection. This was a way to address those complaints. In addition to targeted enforcement, there was a lot of complaints with running the red light, kids getting off the bus, running in the middle of Pearl. So we felt it was good to have a crossing guard there, and it's helped. It's helped with the complaints. So overtime. Okay, this is the big number. I used a 3-year average and to come out with $340,000 each year, depending on the amount of vacancies that we have. We will spend anywhere between $275,000 and $350,000. That's just what it costs to run the police department. We have contractual obligations. We have the minimum manpower that we have to staff. We have to backfill on vacations when people go to training, things of that nature. Last year we were cut down to $120,000. I can tell you this year right now we're about $90,000 over. Okay, and we haven't even entered into our busy season, which is April, May, and June, when people take vacations. So in order to, try to fall anywhere, fall where we should be, I put in for the amount that we probably should have going forward. I know it's a big ask. I know it's a large percentage increase, but this is what we spend. We're going to spend it whether it's going to end up in this area. So figured I'd just ask for what we usually spend. Our longevity, that's down 14% because officers that's a contractual item that will be going away. So as I explained to you last year, there are certain people who are entitled to longevity and certain under the contract that are not. All of the new employees are not entitled to longevity pay. Okay, so as our senior officers get older, retire, they fall off the scale. And we had a couple fall off the scale this year, which is why those are our bigger payments, about $3,000 each. They had fallen off. So eventually this will go up and then just kind of drop off. And you probably, in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, this won't be a budget item. Purchase services, technical services, those are, let's see, those account for our physical agility benefits, our South Central Criminal Justice membership, our physicals for new hires, our psychologicals for new hires, our polygraph testing, drug screening. As you know, from the Police Accountability Act, we are required to have drug screens whenever we renew our certification. That's for drugs and steroids. Polygraph testing, we have to send all new recruits for that. We also have to have behavioral health assessments. We're required by state law to do 20% of the department every year. We schedule those around June or July. It usually amounts to 8 or 9 officers that we send every year. And we also subscribe to Police App. That includes our certification assistance and hiring applications. The state is coming online with a lot of records management, and it makes it easier for us to manage our each certification and all the training that we have to do to maintain that certification. All right. Going down for training, that went down by about 2%. As you know, our training covers our regular officers, our supernumerary officers, our ammunition. We pay our education benefit out of this fund. And also any, usually the training, in addition to the 110 line, will cover any overtime that's incurred by sending officers to training. We like to send our officers to in-service training. It adds to what they get for their certification. They need a certain amount of electives. I believe it's 32 electives. So through the years, we send them to all these classes, such as advanced roadside impairment, DUI, things of that nature. So we send them to all sorts of different classes, de-escalation, things of that. All right, let's see. And also, it does cost us money to send recruits to the academy. Usually that's about $4,000 per recruit. Repairs and maintenance, I left that the same. And I'll when I get to the vehicle line, I'll explain more. But we have a program that's actually before the Board of Selectmen right now. We're looking to enter into a program with Enterprise Rent-A-Car where we lease our police cars, and it's I presented it at our Deputy Chief Appiano presented it at the last Selectmen meeting, and it's a forward-thinking way of managing our fleet. Right now, the way we do cars, it's just not sustainable. We're begging, borrowing, stealing to buy a car. If we have money left over, we buy one. If we don't, our cars are getting up to 80, 90, 100,000 miles, and it's just not sustainable for us. So we're looking at a way to turn over our fleet and reduce our maintenance costs along the way. So I left that flat. Our purchase services maintenance, those are our subscriptions to various programs that we need, such as Power DMS, our building. Power DMS is for our state accreditation. We house all of our policies and procedures in there. It's accessible by any officer. The state will come in, read those policies, procedures, make sure we're complying with it. We just achieved our Tier 3 certification or accreditation, so we're fully accredited as of right now. We just did that this year. So, that line went up a little because of our subscriptions to certain things. That just prices go up with things. Let me go to that line so I can explain a little better. So our copy machines are out of there. We pay for pest control. We also pay maintenance for our solutions call recorder. That is our 911 recorder. So we record all of our phone lines coming in, 911 calls, some routine lines are recorded also. So we pay an annual maintenance fee on that. We have one vehicle mounted license plate reader that we pay $900 a year for. Also for fire extinguishers, postage comes out of this. Our elevator systems contracts come out of there. Our Star Chase GPS and our Matterport crime scene mapper comes out of there. We also pay $4,700 for IDEMIA, which is our fingerprint system. We have 2 stations at the police department that's connected to the state and the FBI. That's how we identify people. We fingerprint for pistol permits, Board of Education, jobs, and all of our arrestees get fingerprinted there. Going to travel, I just left that at 500. We're not really traveling that much where we need a huge expense there. The times where we did were, if you recall, we had to go down to Maryland to arrest a suspect for the cybersecurity crime that happened. That's where this comes in handy, paying tolls and things like that. General supplies, I just reduced it by 2.9%. We buy things out of there for the department, office supplies for our detective bureau. They need certain things like fingerprint kits, fingerprint dust, the crime scene tape, just that sort of stuff. Canine supplies, I left flat at $7,500. We are going to continue to have 2 canines. Clothing, it went down by a percentage point. Gasoline, I reduced by 4%, just based on what we're using, and I'm seeing the average prices. We use about 2,800 gallons a year, and the price has been relatively good lately. So I dropped it by a few $1,000s. We could always adjust that, as it goes. But this year, I think I had budgeted $90,000, and we're well underneath that. We're where we should be. So machinery equipment, again, that covers things like flares, our radar calibration. Let me go to that line. Radio repairs if we need them. Our portable radios, I mean, sometimes if they have to be sent out, they cost quite a bit to repair. Flares I have in there, AED pads, our radar. Again, some more with our intoximeter. We need supplies for our intoximeter. We use every so often we have to order gas canisters for that. And then going to the vehicle maintenance. I'll touch on that car program again. We all, as I said, it's before the Board of Selectmen now. They were waiting for Jay to give them the final okay on the numbers, but I had put in one vehicle as a placeholder in case that the Board of Selectmen did not shoot it down. Now, our new police vehicles, they cost anywhere between $50,000 and $60,000 and $23,000 to accessorize. That's just what they cost. What we're hoping to do with the lease program, for the cost of one vehicle for the first year, and I don't have all the information in front of me right now. We would like to replace 4 or 5 vehicles per year for less than this, for the less than the cost of one vehicle. So again, that program is before the Board of Selectmen right now. And again, I put in for one vehicle as a placeholder just in case it's not approved, and then we can just go ahead and purchase a vehicle. That will do it for my regular budget. If anybody has any questions, or I'll be happy to answer them. And then I just want to hit on one more thing after we're done with questions. Just it's something you might be seeing in the future when it comes to with us. So.
Okay. All right, so we'll go down the line. So Quinn, do you have any questions?
So line item 110, that is the uniform police.
Yep.
I'm assuming that 2.25% is contractual, correct?
That's, yes.
Okay, just
Yeah.
to make sure, so just to clarify that one. And then, as far as the longevity.
Yes.
What is that again? Can you just elaborate
So,
a little
yeah,
bit?
if it was in the contract, if you had X amount of years, you would get paid. I don't know the numbers off the top. Actually, hold on, let me look. Longevity. All right, so if you have about less than 12 years, I believe you get 1.85% of your salary. Okay, but you have to. It only covers those who are hired after 2015. Okay. Or I'm sorry, prior to 2015. Prior to 2015. Anybody hired after 2015 is not eligible for longevity. So we have people who have like 12 years on, they will get 2.1%. Up to 17 years. After 17 years, it goes up to 2.6%. And then after 22 years, it goes up to 3.1%. So,
So it's like another step program.
yeah, it's a step program.
Okay.
It's a step program, but that was negotiated out of the contract a few contracts ago.
Okay.
So, like I said, you'll see this go up a little as people progress in years, and then when they retire, it'll
Fade
fall
down.
out.
Gotcha.
So,
Cool. And then the last thing, the vehicle program thing.
Yes.
So are we going to get any type of equity, like in the older vehicles?
yes.
Like,
So that's the premise of the program.
Okay.
Is in a nutshell, we work with Enterprise as a fleet management company. They will come in, appraise our vehicles. They give us equity in those vehicles so we can trade them in. We lease new vehicles. It comes from the factory, all built out and equipped. So each year, we're leasing more vehicles. So the price does go up each year. And we built out those numbers. We actually reduced the fleet by 2 just to, at last Board of Selectmen meeting, we had brought it up and they had asked to reduce it by 2 and see what the numbers were. So we just got those in today.
Okay.
But yeah, it actually, we checked with other police departments. We were looking for a different way to do things. And when Deputy Chief went to the FBI Academy, he spoke with some of his colleagues down there who were in the training program with him, and they had brought up that this was something that was happening all across the country because other places were having problems getting cars as well. So We decided to look into it. There are a few departments in Connecticut that are using it. The most notable one that we talked to is Clinton. Their chief loves it. Every 2 or 3 years, he gets a couple brand new cruisers in, and you know it keeps the fleet current.
Gotcha.
And we're not throwing good money after bad. I mean, one of our vehicles just lost a transmission.
Gotcha.
Now we have to pay.
And what's
it's
your
like
fleet, what's your
$7,500.
fleet currently at, Chief?
24.
24 units, okay. And that's your patrol cars,
Patrol cars, detective
your
cars,
vehicles, things
yeah.
like that, okay. All right, I'm good.
Okay, Bev.
On that enterprise
Yep.
situation, how much would the cost be to this
So for the
town?
first year,
Right,
if we had it mapped out for replacing 8 vehicles, it would
the
be
first year.
for the first year. For next
Okay.
year, it would be
Mhm.
about $77,000, right? If
about 77,000
Yeah.
per year?
no, well,
For
it
the
would go
first
up.
year.
And I don't have those project. I don't.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
it would go up each year as we have more leases. But
Okay.
but when we trade in the cars, they have equity toward them that we pay on. You know, they figure out all the numbers and how it works.
Right.
So I'm probably not doing it justice. And Jay sat through some of the presentations as well.
I did through the chair, I believe, so if we were to go with the leasing program, we would not need a vehicle in the first year.
Correct.
Right,
Yes.
so that 81,000 that
Then
you
would
see
come
here
out of our
would
budget.
get
come out.
replaced by the 77,000.
Correct, okay.
Okay.
Okay, and this company, Enterprise,
Mm-hmm.
you would check them out with the
They're on the
better,
state bid list.
huh?
They're on the state bid list.
They're on the state bid list?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that everything was checked
Yeah.
out. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Marianne.
Thank you, Chair, and good to be third because each one of those questions was ones I was going to ask, so carry on.
Kristen.
Yep, same. I had those questions as well.
Mary.
Me too. Thanks.
Okay.
That's why we sit on the right side.
Okay, our alternates, I don't know, we'll start with Tracy.
So, about Northwest.
Yes. So I was going to go into that after. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Just a quick question, just
Sure.
referring back to the leasing program.
Mhm.
You said when those vehicles come in, they'll be fully equipped? and
Yes.
That's all part of the.
That's all part of the package. Yes. Yep.
Get one of those at my house.
Robin.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have any questions either, so I think they were all answered in regards to the leasing program. So continue with your next part.
So, I'm gonna just grab some paperwork real quick. All right, so if you haven't heard, we are looking to change the way we operate at the police department in regards to dispatch. So right now, we have one officer stationed behind the desk 24/7. We are paying a grade A officer to sit there to answer phones and not be a police officer, okay? So we've been looking, and our officers really are not certified to answer 911. This is just the way we've existed here for who knows how long. So we started looking into ways that we can fix this and get our officers either trained or hire civilians or outsource dispatch, which is turning out to be one of the better options. So I had presented before the Board of Selectmen in the last 2 meetings regarding transferring our dispatch operations from Seymour PD to Northwest. So right now, if you call 911 in this town, it's answered at the police department. And, excuse me, if you don't have a police emergency, your call is transferred, and you're told to hold on. And our most notable incident was it was 2 weeks ago. We had a structure fire on Deerfield Drive. Lady called 911 screaming that her house was on fire. We said, hold on, we have to transfer you. And we had to transfer her mid-call. And that's the way we operate right now. All right? So what we want to do is streamline our dispatch operations, get our cops back on the street, and move to a civilian dispatch offsite. Now, Northwest CMed already dispatches our our fire and EMS. Okay? I'm not aware of any problems. Quinn, you were a fire chief for a while, so I mean, I'm not hearing too many problems with them. We've had extensive discussion with them about having them dispatch the police department. So, I went over the whole program, how it would work. The state right now is offering a $300,000 transition grant to make this happen, okay? So it's in the state's best interest to want to consolidate public safety answering points, or PSAPs, because they cost a lot of money to run. So the state is offering that incentive that if we were to close our PSAP, not answer 911 here, okay, it would answer up in Waterbury at Northwest CMed. And then they would dispatch a patrol car. Nothing would really change in the way our operations are, except that we would have that extra body, okay? So, we're gonna go into more of this with the communications budget, because this is where it's gonna come out of. So, if it's approved. So basically, there is a cost to it, okay? It's not free, okay? So, the way Northwest calculates their model is their population times $27 per capita, all right? So the total, we're already paying $121,344 to Northwest to dispatch fire and EMS. Adding the police department on there, okay, would be an additional $341,409 for an annual cost. Yes. All right. And then, so a total would be $462,753. That's what we would pay Northwest for all of our dispatching services. Sure. Right now, we pay $121,344. Adding the police department to that mix would be $341,409. And the grand total would be $462,753. That would effectively take away dispatch from us and have them do the dispatching. Also transferring any liability that comes with, answering 911. If there was to be a lawsuit, someone were to call 911 and the call was mishandled or dropped during a transfer, somebody got hurt or died, we're liable for that. That liability is, we're transferring the risk from us to Northwest when it comes to dispatching operations. Our alternative with this is really we have to train our officers to be telecommunicators. And, I don't see that as practical. I mean, we can do it. I mean, we can send our officers to 2 weeks of telecommunicator school, 2 weeks of emergency medical dispatch. It would cost us money to put the software on the consoles that they would need to use. And they need that to answer 911. Plus, all of there's a telecommunicator, emergency medical dispatch, and the 911 system. They would have to be trained on that. And NIMS, National Incident Management System. So there's a lot of training that has to, and to make it a little more complicated, if we were to do that, we're now asking them to do another job. And what comes with doing another job? That's a change in working conditions for them. We would have to pay for that. So that could be a union issue or a contractual issue. Right now, there's no union issue if we do this. It's not a change in conditions because we're not asking them to do a different job. We're asking them to be a police officer. If we were to train them as dispatchers and hold them accountable for dispatching and making sure it's done right, and to do that, I think that would have to be somewhat negotiated. So, I mean, either way, it's going to cost us money. I don't think we could really sit and do nothing. I think that's, and just hope and pray that everything goes well. I mean, this has come to our attention. We've had to, unfortunately, discipline officers for the way they've handled calls on the, and we just kind of want to get out of that. So, I think it's long term. It's what's best for the town. As far as answering a 911 call and having it dispatched right away instead of having a 7 or 8 second delay while we transfer somebody somebody could be screaming or choking and we don't know what's going. We're trying to ascertain what's going on. If you listen to them, I mean, you could hear, like, we'll say 911, where's your emergency? And they describe the emergency and they say, oh, well, I'm having chest pains or something. Okay, hold on. And we transfer you. Then they pick up and they go through the whole same thing again because that's what they're trained to do. It gets dispatch out of our hands and into people who are trained to do it. And the other question that's come up too is hiring civilian dispatchers. If we were to do that, and I've done some preliminary research on it, the average dispatch salary is about $60,000, okay? We would need to create pretty much another bargaining unit, okay? If we're gonna do two positions, we'd probably take back our fire and EMS and just do it ourselves if we're gonna do civilians. So now you have to budget, $60,000 times 8 or maybe 10 people to cover those positions 24/7, plus benefits, okay? Plus now you have to budget overtime and, enter into a contract with them and start a whole new labor. It would cost close to $1 million. I mean, by the time you're done with it. So I really don't think that dispatch, and who's going to oversee it? You're going to have to appoint somebody to oversee it. So I really don't think that that's the way to go. I think with consolidation, it being a theme around the state. I mean, other departments, if you're not familiar, I did a whole consolidation with Fairfield and Westport. That was the last project I worked on before I left. We combined Fairfield and Westport Dispatch. Easton is also joining that center right now. They're closing, and they're going to that center as well. Farmington and Avon just merged. So there's other regional centers around the state that are, and the state is, with their grant, they're encouraging this. So, so that's gonna, it's gonna be in the communication line, that's where this is paid out of, but I just kind of want to give you when you hear it, I wanted you to have an explanation of what we're doing, so. If anyone has any questions on that, I can certainly answer.
Okay, Quinn.
All right, so the state is offering $300,000 to help with the transition cost, right? And just to
Yes.
clarify, adding the police department with the fire department and EMS is an additional $341 every year? 341,409?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
So let me just stop here 1 second.
Sure.
If we were to agree to this, and the Board of Selectmen were to agree to this, and we were to set a go-live date of, it would take about a year to do the transition, to make sure the communication lines are run, everything is working properly, everything is done. The impact for next fiscal year, we would already be paying the $121,344. So if we just chose like a March 1st, 27 go-live date, your total impact would be $206,696. Because that would they would prorate the contract for the year to make it easier for us to budget along those lines, so.
Okay, and then the second thing that I had was the, excuse me 1 second, I'm all over the place with my notes here. All right, so the 3 officers that are doing dispatch.
Yep.
So do they ever get paid overtime because they have to stay over because somebody's not coming in, or whatever the case
Yes.
may be?
They
So we're
they
paying-
currently count toward the 5-man minimum, so the minimum
Gotcha.
on the road would actually increase.
Okay.
Which is what we're looking to do, to
Right.
address, what we'd like to do is use those officers in places where we have a lot of complaints, targeted complaints, maybe make a traffic unit to
Yeah.
address some of these complaints, or send somebody on a task force. Right now, we have one officer serving on a task force, a federal task force, and we were able to purchase rifles, brand-new rifles for the whole department, with just asset forfeiture money.
Gotcha.
Because those, our task forces, they bring in, if they're on the right one, they could bring in some money.
Right.
So,
So with adding these officers on the road, that would, it almost looks like, with salaries, benefits, and everything else that comes with it, it almost looks like it would be the cost of adding it to Northwest.
it would,
With the
it's
3
very
officers.
close to the
It's very
cost.
close. It looks like it's
And
very close.
We're paying them,
So,
I think a cost for an officer with benefits right now is about $130,000.
yeah, it sounds about right.
And,
Okay.
we're just paying 3 of them 24/7 to sit and answer a phone, so.
Okay. And then, last question I have, if you guys do decide to go with this and it gets voted in, what's the plan for you guys when, residents come to the police station and
So
they need
that-
assistance.
yeah,
and
that
nobody's
that
there.
is a big concern. It's been addressed at other places. I hate the term for it. It's called a dark station. It's not really. So when you come into the police department now, you look at a screen that's black. We cannot have our dispatch center open to the public. You can't. That information that's on those computers is privileged. So we can't. You can't walk in and see that. So it's grayed out. So nothing really changes. We're going to have a phone there. We're going to have a video monitor. You're going to pick up the phone like we do now, and dispatcher's going to come on from Northwest, and we're going to have. This is part of the transition to. We're going to redo the camera with lobbies and make a secure door. So if somebody's chased into the police department, we have a safe door that we can buzz them in right from Waterbury. It'll buzz them right in. And 10 minutes later, an officer will come through the door and take your complaint.
Okay.
You know, so it really, without, I've heard some concerns about, there's nobody sitting behind the glass. That person can't get up anyway.
Right.
Because they have to answer 911. So, during the day, we still have a big staff in the police department. Myself, deputy chief, the detectives. We have a shift commander that usually is in the department most of the time. So even after hours, say like right now, you probably have somebody in there writing a report or doing something. A shift commander's filling overtime or doing whatever he has to do. So, we usually do have somebody in the building.
Okay. All right, cool. I'm good. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Bev?
Yeah, do we know if any other towns are using this that are local, like Oxford, and Sonia?
So not local. There's a lot of factors that go into doing something like this with consolidation, and there's it's not always cost effective to do it for some places. So
Okay.
we looked at joining with other departments. The state usually gives a subsidy for when you combine dispatch centers because you're closing that. So with Oxford, they're handled by the troop. So I don't believe they have a PSAP there. So they wouldn't get any money to do it. So
Okay.
it really wouldn't make sense. And we would get no extra money from
Combining with them?
yeah. So it all comes down to how much you would get as a and it's population based and 911 based. So the state has a formula for doing it. For example, in Fairfield, we used to get I want to say it was about $150,000 by taking on Westport. That went up to over 200,000, and then when Easton joins, they'll become a regional center, which is 3 or more municipalities, and that ups it to about $475,000. So that's why it's but if you're the big kid on the block, consolidate, you're not going to make any money.
Right, okay,
So
thank you.
you're welcome.
Betty Ann?
Thank you, Chair. Similar questions. I mean, the biggest benefit is to the citizens.
I agree.
So,
Yep.
having it sold that way certainly is a big factor. Is there a way to relay the comparison of what is physically being paid for and the limitations? So we're currently in place, you call the police, you get
Yep.
transferred to this, and be able to show the comparisons for the citizens between what we have
So,
existing
we
the-
can.
and the complaints that go with it, and/or the solutions and the cost.
Yeah, we can actually get numbers from the 911 system, how long it takes to transfer calls. We actually do listen to them and just to see how long it takes. It's kind of hard to quantify, but I mean, we can do that. I mean, we can get, and if we change, we would have quarterly meetings with them to make sure everything's working okay and people are satisfied with it.
Okay, that was kind of the basis to see if we could try to quantify it in layman's terms for the
Yeah.
public aspect. I think it's a great idea. Thank
Thank
you.
Kristen?
And the $300,000 grant from the state, that's like to put in the hardware, essentially?
Yes, so that would be the cost of moving dispatch there. So I've already started engaging like our software company. We have to do a CAD integration with them. We would have to run a fiber optic line, so we have a redundant line going there. Our radio consoles, although we can maintain the equipment here, we'd have to make it so our radios appear up, which they do now with the police and fire, with fire and EMS. So we'd have to just make sure everything would work right. And that money, we would pay for it first, and then we would apply to the state, and they would reimburse us. So
Thank you.
Mary?
Mhm. 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 So that liability's on them. So I, right now, it rests with us. If 911 is answered for us and we drop the ball and fail to get somebody out there, that's solely on our shoulders. Um, I don't, how long ago did this happen? So the technology with cell phones has, the state's rolled out an enhanced 911 system since then. So when you call 911, we can pretty much tell where you're calling from whenever they do. So those incidents, while they still unfortunately happen, they're a lot more rare right now. So, but that liability would rest with them if that were to happen. Response time, I'm hoping will go up. I mean, I'm sorry, come down. Yeah, go down. I'm hoping we'll come down, where we would, we would get there quicker, So, you're welcome.
Okay, we'll start with Tracy. Why not?
That's for fire and EMS. The 121. So they used 17,139, which is our population, times 40 cents for CMed for ambulance, plus 17,139 times $6.67. I guess that's their rates for dispatching fire. They're not as frequent as us. We're on the radio all the time, so I'm assuming that's why the rates are different. And our 27 is the whole package. Yep. You're welcome.
Alice?
Yeah, just thinking about, going back to response time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious how they list all this data, their data and whatever. Would that be available?
Yes. Yes. Yep. We keep track of that in-house, so we kind of know, when we dispatch cars, but see, our officers aren't dispatchers, so a lot of times they're dispatching and then they're putting it into the computer later, and sometimes our data is not always that accurate. We're hoping that by having professional dispatchers who do this, the call gets entered, we can get accurate data on it.
Well,
Yep. Yep. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not much. They're trained by other officers who are experienced sitting the desk. That's mm-hmm. Pretty shortly after I got here. I didn't, I've come before and asked for a lot over the years to modernize the department, and I was trying to, I'm trying to balance the priority. I brought this up probably a year ago to start looking into the dispatch and consolidate. We've toured other centers. I mean, this isn't the first, this just didn't happen like yesterday. I've been thinking about this for a while, especially since we've had a couple incidents where I've had to discipline an officer for his performance on the radio, and that just kind of kicked it to the forefront. And I was like, we really got to get going on this because we've had a lot of other things that we've had to do, and we've done them. So now this is kind of like the yeah.
The only question that I have is timeframe wise in regard to the Board of Selectmen approving this. Do we know approximately whether we're looking at it soon or, I mean, they're in the process of ongoing discussions,
So
correct?
what they agreed to last meeting was a non-binding letter of intent. So I'm
Okay.
waiting for that from Northwest.
Okay,
The certainly is not a full 100% we're on board or anything like that. I think they still want to think about it, and they, you know, I think there were still some concerns with them. So
okay,
I'm waiting to hear what, you know, what else they would want from us.
okay. All right, thank you.
And I believe, so this would come out of the communications line, so I'm, you know, just so when Chief Edwards present his line, he'll probably have a notation in there to talk about this as well, so.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Betty Ann, you said you had something
Yeah,
else?
Thank you, Chair. I did. It's gonna come off, if it moves forward, it comes off of here. Where is that pointed out in our salaries, or is it, it's
It's
covered?
not, it's coming.
No, it's not coming out of my, it
Communications.
would,
Okay,
it would be out of
totally.
communications.
Communications. And then the final question is, how does a disciplinary action get put into a police officer's record if he's rude or answers the phone in his outside or her outside voice and not inside voice on a dispatch call?
Well, we would do what's called a department review or an internal investigation, depending on how bad the severity was. And then, you know, we have our disciplinary procedures spelled out in the contract, so, and
Oh.
we just abide by those.
Cool. Just curious, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
Have we had any incidences where the liability could fall on Seymour?
Yes.
Okay, all right, like count on your hand type thing, or over a dozen?
Fortunately, they're far and few between,
Okay,
but we did have one last year.
okay,
Like I said, and if a person so chose to sue, we
understood.
would be paying.
Okay,
So.
all right, thanks, Chief.
Okay, with that, anybody else have any other questions before we move on?
Deputy Chief Dapiano, anything?
The, yes, Mr. Bitso.
Northwest is located, they're located at the St. Mary's Hospital in Woodbury. So they have access, I mean, they're never gonna lose power, there's backup generators, so they're in the best place they could be in to have this operation to support, you know, our town.
Okay, thank you.
They do currently dispatch Waterbury PD and Middlebury PD. So that
They
we would
do
be the third
Middlebury?
police department joining the center.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is everybody good up here? We'll move right on to the next, which will be the fire marshal. Fire Marshal Willis, how are you?
Well, thank you.
All right, the floor is yours.
Good evening to the board. Thank you. I know just about everybody knows me, but I'm Tim. I'm with the Fire Marshal's office. I've been there for 17 years. I've been presenting this budget as the Fire Marshal for, this will be my 8th year. And I'd like to think that this is going to be my easiest presentation yet, so I've probably just jinxed myself. So I am asking for no line item increases other than contractual. So I know the board typically likes that, and this is the first time I can say that. So I'm going to go line by line. First, starting at 101 is the fire marshal's salary, contractual 2.75%. The next one is 110. That is my salary for employees. That would be my deputy and my full-time fire inspector. It would actually be also, normally it would be a 2.7, but because one of those employees is new and was hired at a lower grade, we're not encumbering that whole amount from what was originally budgeted when we were unsure of the collective bargaining agreement last year. So that's going to come in at a 2.15% increase. Number 120, that is our clerical. You're going to see this number, and it looks as a percentage huge, 136%, at $15,000 increase. We're asking for $26,000. That is not actually an increase in the budget. It's being removed from the fire department. Currently, that employee is a shared service between the fire marshal and the fire department. The previous chair of this board asked that we divide it up because it was a shared service. I understand the logic, but it really doesn't make any sense when you're writing checks, and that has been asked by the head of finance as well as the chief administrative officer to put it all in one. It was either all in the fire department or all in the fire marshal's office, simply because there's been issues in the past where accounts have, I guess, technically gone into the red, even though they haven't. They've just had to change accounts on where they draw from. So for simplicity for the finance employees, it will all be out of one account. So you will see it, in theory, you would have seen a 2.75% increase, which is contractual for, that's a 19.5 hour a week employee. So that, again, looks like a big increase, but it's simply, you'll see that removed when the fire department presents their budget. Overtime, education, repairs and maintenance, I will go down each one of them, but they are 0% increases. Overtime is pretty spelled out when we're called out. We are contractually, through our CBA, we are allowed or given overtime. Our education, that is for our ongoing certification. Every year we have to maintain hours. This allows us to go to our conferences. There's 2 conferences that we go to every year, each employee, 6. That encumbers roughly $2,200, and then there's $500 left over typically if somebody wants to go to a specific type of training on something more in depth. Repairs and maintenance, so far, and another one that I don't like saying out loud, but we have been good with our fleet. One of them is an aging vehicle of going on 13 and a half years old, so knock on wood, I'm keeping that the same. Communications has been zeroed because it's moved to the communications line item in IT. However, that covers our iPad use, cellular, our phones, and then radio issues as well. Fire prevention, we're keeping it 1,000. That's the giveaways we do. That I always refer to as the hats for kids. That's the simplest, what we all know. But when we do the fire prevention week, general supplies, that's our catch-all. The $1,500 is the same. That's paper, pens, office supplies. Not so much film development anymore, but odds and ends if we need for processing scenes, tools. Very generic stuff, tape measures, the simple, I'll call it more the perishable items. Clothing is for our uniforms every year. We all know, and you just heard the chief of police speak, these items aren't cheap. It's uniforms to keep everyone looking dapper. Fuel right now, we are lower than where we are. Part of that is, and I will speak, one of our employees has been out for quite some time with some health issues, so his vehicle is staying parked, so our fuel demand isn't there. Upon speaking with Mr. Caserta, he felt to keep it the same, and we can change that if necessary. Books and periodicals, this year we are very low on usage. I anticipate that going up. The code cycle is supposed to be every 2 years it gets increased. This year it did not happen, and it was kept getting pushed back further and further. It is now July 1, so it is my goal to buy all the new code out of this current budget, and then if they change ahead of cycle, it really depends on how legislation takes action. This year has kind of been slow for some reason. Finally, equipment would be tools, bunker gear, PPE, respirators, the filters for our respirators for scene work, jumpsuits, those sorts of things, as well as our 4-gas meters to make sure it's safe when we do inspections, carbon monoxide, liquid propane gas, make sure there's no leaks. So that would all be zeroed. The last item I have on here is the one that's kind of in my budget, but not really, the hydrant one. This is always the discussion every year. I am going to try to, for people who are new to this or whatnot, this is actually the water, we call it hydrants. I'm going to start calling it the water main budget, because if you are not connected to a well in your home, this is the line item that covers the pipes in the road. The only way for us to do away with this would be if every resident went to a well in their home. I'm not trying to be silly, but this is the water mains. I put in at 7% this year for an increase. Some of the things I'm seeing, we have 2 water providers in town. We're kind of unique with that. About 30% of our town is Regional Water Authority. The other 30% of the town is Aquarian. I'm sorry, the other 70%, 30 regional, 70 Aquarian. With the 2, I am seeing requests for as high as 13, 14, and 15%. We're at the will of what Pura is going to allow. The 6.9 to 7.5 has kind of been the sweet spot the past few years. I hope that this number, the additional 36,000, is high, but I'm requesting $562,778. It falls to the fire marshal just because traditionally over the past so many years, I've been the full-time employee able to answer the phone from the water authority. But really, I mean, I don't know who should handle this. I don't know if it should be the fire department. I don't know if it should be Public Works, if it should come out of the selectmen. But these are the water mains. It's just, we call it the hydrant account. So if you have any questions on that. But as far as that, I am looking strictly contractual. The other item that I'm just going to discuss real quick was a capital item for a request. This was supposed to be in the 24-25 budget year. I was asked by the chief administrative officer at the time to delay it to last year. I requested it for last year and it was not fulfilled. I am seeking $99,500 out of capital for a new pickup truck with a cap. Part of that is to keep all the carcinogens and bad stuff out of our vehicles. The NFPA standards for emergency services vehicles for fire scenes require that we have a clean cab concept. That means keep all the things that are unfortunately, sadly, killing firefighters and fire marshals, particularly at an extremely high rate, out of our passenger compartments. That vehicle cost is off of state bid. It's roughly $59,000. I did exaggerate and put $60,000 just because this quote was from the summer. We don't know percentage points. $38,000 for outfitting. It's kind of disturbing that it's that much, but that would include cap, lights, radios, and all that equipment that wouldn't be transferred from a 14-and-a-half-year-old vehicle that wouldn't be able to. And then finally, lettering, because our vehicles need to be lettered so people know who we are and why we're where we are. So, please, any questions, I will do my best to explain.
Okay, we'll start down on this side of the table this time. Mary?
I have no questions right now.
Thank you.
Kristen?
No questions.
Betty Ann?
No questions, thank you.
Bev?
I just had one question. On the hydrants, last year we had brought up about some of the hydrants being really like damaged and old.
Yep.
Has
We have actually had a good year, I will say overall, because it's a public forum and I'm being recorded, I want to speak to John Poremba at Regional Water, Aquarian Water Authority. He is fantastic. He really does his best. Unfortunately, just like every other place, shoestring budgets, they handle from this part of the state all the way down to Greenwich, and it's a limited budget for that whole area. So every hydrant is operated every year and greased every year. They keep them running. Currently, I have 0 hydrants out of service. So that's pretty good when you look at the news and read other municipalities. But again, that could change tomorrow. Thank you.
Quinn?
Just to kind of piggyback off of what Bev said, as far as the water mains in the town, are we all up to date, up to code? We don't have any small, I know we had some issues on South Main Street. I know that's been rectified. Any other that you are aware of?
So the biggest issue was speaking, what board member Levy said was that in 2018, April of 2018, we had a large fire where we recognized a large deficiency in our water system. That water system was from 1910. We were fortunate enough we were able to shake the tree and actually saw a response. And if you live on the east side of town and drive down Route 115, you did see quite an extensive project 2 years ago. They did update that entire water main. It was a vast improvement. We currently have about 30% of the town non-hydrated. For any of you board members who live on a well, you're in an area that is not hydrated, there's not a water main available. They are currently not adding pipe anywhere throughout the state. What they will do potentially is if we identify an issue, without boring you with the hydraulics of it, they will close loops. So if you think of water going from, Rich's house to Bev's house over a garden hose. Well, if Quinn's house is off there and Betty Ann's house, you're all pulling from the same water source. What they like to do is a grid system, ideally. In a perfect world, we'd have water coming from multiple different areas, and if we had a grid, when Quinn takes his water from Rich's house, it doesn't pull from over here. They will close loops. At request, I currently don't have anything in Seymour that they have approved. I ask every year, but it's kind of just I ask for the sake of hearing myself talk. So.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Robin? Alice? Tracy?
I can certainly ask, but unfortunately how we've done business forever in town is departments don't always interact with each other, and I think financially a benefit to purchase one vehicle and have a lease assignment. There's only 2 vehicles currently in my office, even with a third, I'm not sure if the savings would be there, but I'm sure Mr. Viero might be able to add to that. I'd love to it.
Through Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
The way the program works is, now it's just not just limited to police vehicles and cruisers, we can do it almost any vehicle the town would need, whether that's from Public Works Department, to any other department, so, certainly the fire marshal would be able to accomplish that.
Thank you, Tracy.
Okay, that was good question. Very good. All right. With that, any other further questions before we dismiss Fire Marshal Willis?
Good job.
All right, thank you.
Good job. Thanks for what you do.
Okay, so before we go into our final public comment, Jason, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to just let everybody know that these packets in its entirety are filed with the post office. So if there's any need for anybody to have a copy, please go to the town clerk's office during their scheduled business hours. And I did want to mention, I'm trying to get a hold of the chief here. He didn't reply. I think in the excitement of going over his budget, he also had a capital request item. So if you can just, I'll handle it for him if that's okay.
That's fine. You could, so everybody go back to
Tab
13, please.
It's the last 2 pages.
Okay.
So it'll be the last 2 pages on tab 13. Right, the summary report. So the chief is requesting. Everybody with me on that page? Okay. So it looks like the chief is requesting $21,882 to come out of capital for a firearms evidence storage system upgrade. He says this is driven by increased seizures and mandated safety standards. He goes on to describe it a little bit more detail on why the department is requesting this this capital item. I think we want to safely house the growing inventory of firearms that have been seized.
Okay.
So, in short.
All right, so I'm just going to kind of open this up here to everybody up here in regard to this topic. Does anybody have any questions that they're going to need answered in regards to Chief Buccarati's capital request? Quinn?
No, I mean, the only thing that I would ask is, like, what are we currently doing with all of the seized firearms now? Like, does the state come in and take them, or are we just housing them at the PD, just out of curiosity?
Okay, Monica, could you just take down our notes, and let's do this again like we have been with like the red.
Yeah.
That worked out really good last year. Thank you. Okay, Bev?
Okay, should this be just put into his regular budget? Is this something that's gonna be something that he has to maintain every year? I don't know.
I think it's a one-time, non-recurring
Purchase
upgrade,
item? Okay,
which is why he's asking for it to be out of capital.
okay.
Any additional questions that you guys may have as we go down the line here, I can follow up with the chief and report back at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Betty Ann?
No, nothing on mine.
Kristen? Mary? Tracy? Alice? Robin? Alrighty. So with that, that brings us to item number 5, which is our second public comment. Second public comment, going once. Second public comment, going twice. Second public comment, going 3 times. Second public comment is closed. Correspondence, item number 6. Jason, we haven't gotten anything yet? Okay. We'll just leave it at that for now. Move on to item number 7, new business. All right, so our next presentation will be Wednesday, February 11th, where we will hear from Town IT, the Registrar, and Community Services. Unfortunately, I will not be available to be here on Wednesday for this, so Bev will end up running the presentation in my absence. Which brings us now to item number 8. It is 8:08, and we will close this portion of the presentation, and we will see you all again on Wednesday. Thank you.
Good job.